I am pretty average iRacer, maybe. I'm not the greatest in the world, and so I get really frustrated with it, and for the longest time, the last couple of years, I've kind of had an insomnia problem. It's called the 5-year-old. And so what I found a couple of years ago is getting up in the middle of the night, I couldn't go back to sleep, and frustrated because I'm not a very good racer. But I have Photoshop skills. I've been doing Photoshop for 18 years, and I build models. David and I were talking about that earlier, scale models, and I started painting a few cars, and I really got hooked on it. And next thing you know, I found I was actually spending more time painting than I was racing. And I'm sure some of you all have seen some of my threads in the showroom where last year I was doing all the NASCAR winners and trying to raise money for Victory Junction, and that was a ton of fun. But I paint for myself. I've got a few people that I paint for, but I don't charge money for my paints. I don't really take requests except from guys that I know. I just mainly paint for myself because I get a lot out of it at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you can't watch Red Eye on Fox every night, right? So that's kind of how I got into it. And over time, I've kind of developed some techniques that help me paint. I don't know what the different skill levels are in the room of painting. I'm going to try to touch on everything over the next 2 hours. We'll take a little break. I don't know if some of you may just want to come for this one. The way this is broken down, Cyan asked me to do an hour at the most basic level, paint kit, trading paints, all that kind of stuff. He said I would be shocked at how many guys just run the paint kit paints and have never tried trading paints, or they really want to try trading paints and they're a little intimidated by everything you have to do. Are there any people that don't know anything about trading paints or haven't used trading paints in the room? All right, then we'll talk about that for a few minutes. Also, if I start talking about some things that everybody understands, y'all just let me know. I don't want this to be a presentation so much as I just like to be a conversation. And I don't want to waste time going over stuff that everybody already gets. All right, so if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask. We have 2 hours. I'll do my best to answer them. I do all my painting with Photoshop. I've never painted with anything else. You can paint cars with Illustrator if you want. I don't. A lot of guys use GIMP. I've never used GIMP. If you're more interested in painting cars with GIMP, my recommendation would be to go into the General Paint Discussion Forum. There's a series of tutorials in there by James Petty. And if you'll watch those videos, I'm pretty sure you'll learn everything that you need to know about GIMP. Also, it's been my experience that James is easily one of the nicest guys I've ever met in iRacing. And he will answer any question if you post it in the forum or send him a private message. So, let me get a couple things going here. Since we've pretty much all got experience with the paint kit, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that at all. I think everybody gets that. Does anybody have any questions about the paint kit? Picking cars, designs, colors, fonts, number fonts, colors. All right, well, there went 30 minutes. Don't have to cover that. What I would like to cover, just ignore the first one, is I want to go over the basics of using trading paints, because we do have a few people in the room that have never used it. So let's start there. So if you don't know what trading paints is or aren't totally familiar with it, essentially when you have paints on your computer for your car, you're running the paint kit, you don't have anything custom at all. You can go in and you can get your buddy to design you a car. You can design your own car. You can save it in the appropriate place and make the file name what it needs to be, and when you load it up in a test session or a race session, you'll see your car painted that way. The problem is, though, is if I'm doing that and I'm in a session with Alan, Alan's not going to see that. He's going to see what I've got running in the paint kit, because my car file that I've got customized has no way to get on Alan's computer. It's local to my machine. And so with trading paints, essentially what you do is you just download, you sign up and you download a small app that runs in the background. That app, as demonstrated in the diagram there, whenever you load up a practice session, a test session, a race session, whatever kind of session, that app looks at all the session entries and sends that session entry list to Trading Paints. And then Trading Paints essentially says, all right, I got this list of drivers in this session. They're all running a Dallara DW12 race. Give me all the Dallara DW12 paints for this list of drivers, and then send it back to that computer that just asked for it. So essentially, at its base level, it's like having the cloud. Everybody's connected in that session to the same cloud and sharing those paints. So if I'm in a session with Alan, we're both running Trading Paints, we connect to Trading Paints. Trading Paints says, okay, I've got a car for Alan, I've got a car for Kyle, sends those back to my computer, and then I can see Alan's paint as well as my paint when I'm in the session. Does that make sense to anybody? That's trying to be pretty simplistic about it. It's really easy to use Trading Paints. Only requires a couple of steps. Obviously, to use Trading Paints, go to tradingpaints.com, click on Create an Account to get started.
I have a question over here.
You bet.
How much memory does this really take to download everybody's paint scheme?
You know, that's really something I don't know.
Is it a lot?
I really don't know. I've never had an issue, but I have 16 gigs of RAM.
It can be. They've added that option to delete them after the session now, so it doesn't fill up your hard drive.
Okay.
But one paint scheme, I guess to give you an idea, one paint scheme, uncompressed in 32, can be as much as 10 or 12 megs.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
one paint scheme could be rather large. You get in a race with 40 people,
So it's
You're
not
4
downloading
gig-
all
4
33,000 paint jobs?
no,
No.
just the ones in that session. So if they're 20,
Before it was, because I
Yeah.
remember it taking forever to download.
Yeah, but you had to do it manually back then. You had to open the app, select what you want to do it manually. Now it's just going to look at your session, and let's say us three guys are the only guys in the session. It's going to contact Trading Paints and say these three guys are in the session, and say give us those three guys only. And the cool thing, it's unless you do the option that you said to delete them at the end of the session, it'll keep those paints in your folder.
Okay, that's,
Then the next time that you get in a session, if he's still running the same paint, it'll ignore him and just load the one you already have.
The danger there
and
is,
if somebody
with
updates,
so many cars, you can start looking at gigabytes worth of data being on your drive.
Yeah.
but if
Yeah.
you are only running league races and there's like 25 or 30 guys that you ever race with, then you
Then
don't
there's-
need you
there's
don't
not a lot of
need to
harm there.
do
Yeah.
But if you're doing a lot of open,
yeah. Then it
Yeah.
will only update the ones that anybody's changed.
sorry, didn't mean
And the others-
That's okay. We got
It's-
plenty of
that's a
time.
valid question. That's something, some people don't run it because they're concerned about killing their hard drives.
Typically what I do, I've got a pretty fancy, I've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, and usually once a month on a Saturday morning while I'm drinking coffee, I'll go in there and I'll clean out my paint folders just to keep them cleaned up so that I'm not building this just super giant amount of car files. That's just my personal preference. As far as actually downloading and loading those into memory for the session, I've never had an issue. Again, That's with 16 gigabytes. Now, the computer I had before this, I had 8 gig, and I never had an issue. So, but to your point, sometimes they can get pretty big.
They can get very large. In fact, all the pro drivers, when they do their custom schemes, iRacing limits them to a file size of 5 megabytes.
Yeah, and you should be able to.
So you can't run an uncompressed, they make you compress them, to keep them under 5 megabytes for any car files that the programs use.
Yeah.
That's one of the limitations to keep giving the space that's being used.
Yeah, I do too. I don't really see much advantage to leaving them uncompressed. If y'all are familiar with my paints, I mean, they've been pretty popular, and I think they're pretty decent paints. All those screenshots you see are of compressed Targas. I've never really messed with uncompressed at all. I think if you've got 8 gigs, 16 gigs, you're fine. If you got less than that, I'm not really sure. I don't have any experience with that. And then if it bothers you building up that many paint files over time, just go in and clean them out every now and then. Or, like David said, check the box in the app, which we'll look at here in a second. And every time you exit a session, it'll clean out any new files that it put in there. So, to use Trading Paints, create an account. Straightforward, standard fare, create a website account, just like any that you've ever seen. I think there's a couple more steps after this. I've already got an account, so I can't really go in here and do another one. At one point, it'll ask you for your iRacing ID, I believe, so that it can match you up to the sessions. And then the next step, once you've got the account, is you need to install Trading Paints on your PC. And I've tried to walk some people through this on the phone before, and it seems like the stumbling block that people run into is this part right here. The Trading Paints application uses some pieces and parts, some objects out of the .NET 4.0 framework. And so what my recommendation is if you've never used Trading Paints, when you get to this page after clicking on Install, click on the .NET Framework 4.0 first. It'll open a page over at Microsoft where you can download and install .NET Framework 4.0. Once you've got that download and installed, restart your computer before you install Trading Paints. Let's say you've done that, you've downloaded, installed .NET, come back to Trading Paints, go back to Install, and then click the green button for Install Trading Paints. It'll download a setup file. You run the setup file, and then you've got everything installed on the PC that you're going to need. Okay, this is the actual Trading Paints application that's going to run on the PC. The way I set it up is I sign in one time, and then I click that Remember Me, and I never have to sign in again. I'm not going to do that right now because I have to come back to it under a different account here in a minute. Once you're signed in, this is the only page in the whole app where you can set your preferences for how you want it to work. If you will make sure that that is toggled to start on system startup, you'll never have to worry about, oop, did I start Trading Paints before I joined the Daytona 500? It'll already be running in the background, and you can double check that by coming down in here to your system tray, and you'll see the icon for Trading Paints. If you tick Stay Logged In, not only will it automatically always start up when you start your computer, it'll automatically log you in. And so you can essentially have Trading Paints running and never have to touch it as far as the application goes that makes it work. This is the option that he was talking about, where you can tell it to automatically delete all the car files and helmet files and suit files that it downloads after every session. I personally like to manage that, so I leave it unticked. And then down here you have the options for just how detailed you want to be. Whether you want to download helmets and suits, download decal layers, or maybe you don't want all that stuff, you just want the cars. And then they've got another option. Whenever you upload paints to Trading Paints, you have to tick a box that says this file is family friendly or this file is not family friendly. And so if you don't want the, unfortunately, the marijuana leaf cars coming down on Trading Paints, then you can untick that box, and hopefully with people that have uploaded questionable cars have marked them as not family friendly, and they won't download. You won't have to worry about seeing them.
And if Trading Paints is really good about it. If you see something that you don't feel is family friendly, it doesn't meet that, you can send them an email of the car file that you've seen, and they'll review it, and they'll make that change so that won't ever come down again, and notify that individual.
Yeah, they're real good about trying to keep it clean, and unfortunately, I've seen a few like I was just talking about, but yeah, Steve especially is real good about working with people to make sure that you're getting a good experience. Probably one of the biggest settings on here that's key to me is this one, automatically refresh textures. Whenever you join a session, let's say I'm joining a practice session at Talladega, and when I join, there's already 20 cars in the server. If I have that tick to automatically refresh the textures, when I join that session, Trading Paints, the little app, is going to automatically call out to the web to tradingpaints.com and get me the paint files I need. My screen is kind of blink, the cars are going to kind of blink, and then I'm going to see all the paints as I should. It's automatic. It automatically updates and keeps the paints current and accurate to what they should be. If you uncheck that box, you have to do it manually. And so if I join at Talladega, I have to hit Control-R to refresh the screen and get it to make that call. So it's essentially the difference between automatic and manual. Personally, I like to do it manually because I've run into a few instances where I'll be in the middle of a race and all of a sudden all the cars will just start blinking like crazy. It's almost like it gets stuck in a loop or something, and that can be very distracting if you're in a heated battle for 27th place like I usually am, and all of a sudden all the cars start blinking all around you and they won't stop. So by doing it that way, usually what I do, I usually only run, honestly, I don't run as much as I'd like to. I run league races on Sunday night in the Power Series, and once I get to the server, I'll hit Control-R for practice, and then right before the race, while we're gridding up, I'll hit Control-R again to make sure I've got everybody's latest, greatest paint schemes and do it manual, and I'm good to go. Any questions about that? If you're not doing it with it automatic, try it, and I think eventually you'll see the problem I was talking about. That is the PC end of things. So again, pretty simple to use. Go out to tradingpaints.com, sign up, download .NET 4.0 framework, install that, restart your computer, and then install Trading Paints from tradingpaints.com. Once you've got it installed, go in, you can set your settings to where you never have to touch Trading Paints again, or you can put as much personal involvement into it as you want it to have, where you're logging in every time, starting it every time, refreshing your own textures every time, so on and so forth. If you're in a replay, all right, so for example, when I paint at Richmond. I like to paint at Richmond. These screenshots I do are at Richmond. I'll go in, hop in the car, sit there for a couple seconds, then hit replay and get it where I want it and pause. If Trading Paints is running, it's going to pull whatever I got from Trading Paints down and overwrite what I just loaded up. My general rule of thumb is if I'm painting, I turn off Trading Paints. I'll go down into the system tray and right-click the icon and close it out.
Isn't there not a choice there?
Yeah, there is.
Not update your own?
Yes, there is.
So
It was one of the choices I had,
It won't do that.
but I keep that checked all the time, but that's a good point. Forgot about that. You can go into the settings. Seen that? Yeah. If you uncheck that, then you won't. Then what you're trying to do, you never have to worry about it. Back to originally what I was saying, I was using Alan as an example. If I don't have Trading Paints, I can go paint a car and I can put it in an appropriate folder and load up a session, and I will see it all day because it's on my computer. But Alan can't see it.
I can upload every damn one I do.
But here's the thing is essentially you got to look at trading paints this way. You're not running trading paint so you can see your own scheme. You're running trading paint so everybody else can see your scheme.
And also, you have to run trading paints to see the paints that everybody else.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I'm painting, though, I've been uploading
No.
the work that I've done, like he's talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like an idiot.
No, all you have to do when you're painting is just save it, put it in the right place, and refresh. All right, so since you're dealing with an app that's running on your own computer, and you're also dealing with the server at Trading Paints, you've essentially got to remember that the app running on your computer is dictating how it's going to run on your computer. TradingPaints.com, when you log in, is where you essentially manage what's on the server. So this is the account for Pod 6 out here. I did 10 cars for Pod 6 before the seminar. This is Trading Paints Basic. So there's Trading Paints Basic, which is absolutely free to use, and then there's Trading Paints Pro that I think is like $23.99 a year, $2 a month. We'll touch on that in a minute. Trading Paints, I think, is super easy to use if all you really want to do is upload your cars for everybody else to see them. Some of the features that everybody needs to be aware of is whenever you first log in, it's going to go straight to your paints. Up here you have the ability to send and receive messages, kind of like iRacing PMs in the forum. This is for notifications. And then over here you have a way to set up your settings, like what your email is, password, just standard account management stuff. Your paints is where you're going to, it's essentially going to show you the paints that you've uploaded to Trading Paints for everybody else to see when you race. So if we look at the first one, Chevrolet Camaro Class B, this is over on the left, you see oval, you've got the default daytime paint. Over here below that's road, and again you have default daytime paint. If you have a pro account, you can actually set up cars that run specifically with your league. And then with the newest feature that just came along for the 24 Hours of Daytona is if you're in a team, the team owner can upload a team paint, and everybody that's on that team will automatically have that paint. When they go log into a team race, they don't even have to worry about it. Boom, it downloads. And then lastly, the driver, where you can upload suits and helmets. Very straightforward. If you've got a new paint that you want to run, just finish painting it. I'm ready to send it up to the server so that when I log in, I'll see it and everybody else will. You just pick the make and model. So we'll say Chevrolet Impala, you click Add, and then you've got the opportunity to upload the Tga file for that paint. Click that, browse your computer, find the file that you want. You can type in the sponsors that you want for the car, and then here's the box you can check for whether it's family friendly or not. Once you click Upload, it'll take a few minutes, upload the car file, and then once it's uploaded, if you'll look at the Camaro Class B, you'll essentially see the thumbnail of the car that you just uploaded, and now you're ready to go. If I go to Vegas, load up a session, I'm in the Camaro, I've got Trading Paints running on my computer, then whenever I load up, I should see the car that I just uploaded to Trading Paints. It's that simple to use. Other cool features about Trading Paints, besides being able to upload your own, is also the showroom. A lot of guys, myself included, will paint cars and then we'll post them to the showroom. And if you find one that you like, typically, now, let me just search some of the ones I've put in here. Okay, so here's some of the paints that I've done and shared out, some of the Texas Club stuff. Maybe I want to run this Texas Club Chevy Camaro oh, let me choose one that's not, how about the Lotus 49? I like that and I want to run it. I can click on it here in the showroom. And right over here is the button that says use Lotus 49 paint. So if I click that, it'll ask me to confirm. And then I can click OK or go to My Paint Schemes. All right, so that's a road car. I'll go over and click on road. And if I scroll down to the Lotus 49, you'll see there that it's assigned that car that I just picked out of the showroom to run. So it's pretty neat. You can create your own and upload them, or you can go into the showroom and download. Pretty automated way of being able to pick out cool paints and run them and switch. You know, maybe you run that ad, I don't like that so much. I'll go find another one, a couple of clicks, and boom, you've got some new paint. Any more trade and paints questions? I know that this is very low level type stuff. I mean, it's not the most exciting stuff, but you know, trading paints changed everything. Before that, I've been a member for 4 years, and before I even realized trading paints, I had a year just running the paint kit. There used to be a logo in there for like Men in Blue. And I remember how sad I was when they took that logo away, because all my cars were Men in Blue and painted them. I thought that was the coolest logo. So pretty simple, you know, download, install trading paints. If you're not a painter, you can use the showroom, there are a lot of great painters out there that are putting out really good stuff, and you know, it's easy to switch back and forth. Same with suits and helmets. You can find suits and helmets in the showroom as well.
You may not know, but is there any, it might be in here, I just haven't just recently, is there any kind of a copyright feature, or like, if you have a specific company, you don't want somebody grabbing it? Has anyone approached that, or that has come up at all?
If I'm understanding you right,
I have a company, on my logo, on all my cars, but I don't want somebody grabbing it, and unless I've given them permission.
okay. So, you know, it goes without saying, people don't like it when you know, if you spend a lot of time painting your own paints, you don't like it when you see somebody using it without permission. I think everybody understands that. Every now and then you'll see a big fight flare up in the showroom discussion or the general paint discussion where somebody will say somebody stole my paint. There's really no way to stop that. If I upload a paint for my company and somebody in Brazil is looking through their cache of cars that have been downloaded over time and they see it and they want to use it, there's no way to stop it. One cool thing about the Pro account versus the regular, if I upload a paint to the showroom to share with a basic account, anybody can use it. With a Pro account, you can actually set it to where people have to ask you permission. And I've done that with a couple of my paints. 99% of stuff I put out there, I just share with everybody. But there have been a couple where I've ticked the box and people have sent me private messages asking me for permission. I like that because it lets me know who's, you know, I can keep a tab on who's using the paints and where they're going. So,
But if they race you in a session, though, they can start doing their own.
yeah. Yeah, once it gets pulled to their computer, it's beyond your control at that point.
Once you make the decision that you want other people to see your paints, once that, you've made that decision and it's put out there, now it's free out there. They can essentially go and take it and.
But it's kind of one of those unwritten rules and just gentleman's thing that you're not supposed to go use paints without permission.
Well, let me ask you this, is there, and I don't know, is there a way that you can go into the properties of that file and do something where it can't be renamed? Because if you can stop people from renaming it, they can't use it.
Not that I know of, no. You know, I do a lot of paints. I bet in the last 2 years I've painted over 1,000 cars. I've only caught somebody stealing my paint one time, and I just sent them a PM and had a rational discussion with, you know, about it, and they fessed right up and promised to stop, and that was the end of it. I think that you have to approach it that once you use trading paints and you put your files out there, you have to be willing and ready to have that happen to you and accept it before it happens. That's how I approach it. Kind of like if I loan my brother money, I expect I'm never getting that money back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to show real quick. I will add this though. I have seen instances where it's flared up. Hey, Joe Schmo's using my paint without permission. He stole it. If you can prove that to the guys at Trading Paints, I have seen them shut people's accounts down over that, to where they'll never use Trading Paints again. So if I'm a paint thief, it's not worth the risk to me not to be able to run Trading Paints to go out. So, you know, that's one recourse, but other than that, I don't think there's any way. So it's kind of like the loaning your brother money thing.
Yeah, I guess the only thing you could do is maybe put a little copyright notice somewhere in the mask area.
Yeah, that's what I do. You know, I put, you'll see when we paint here in a minute of what I do about that. And I'm sure there are guys out there that have stolen my paints that I don't know about. But as soon as I load them out there, I'm saying to myself, if they do, that's okay with me. But I ask them not to. So, Trading Paints Pro, a couple of, just real quick, the differences. One of the big differences right away, you log in, you come to your paints, there's no more advertisements, which is nice. You also get access to Paint Builder, which lets you paint cars right here in the interface. I'll be honest, admit, I've never used it, never looked at it, don't know anything about it. The forum posts that I've seen, it seems like it doesn't work all that great. So that's all I know about it. The couple of reasons that I like having pro account versus the basic account. Number one is $24 a year is pretty cheap, $2 a month. And I think it's pretty cheap money to support these guys and keep Trading Paints alive. So that's the number one reason I pay for a pro account. These guys deserve it. This changed iRacing. The other thing is I like to be able to run custom contingencies on my cars. I like to make them look like the real thing. With the pro account, you can do that. You know, right now the contingencies on the car are iRacing instead of Sprint Cup. With pro account, you can use car decal layers. Basic account, you can't do that. The other big reason is I like to be able to assign specific suits and helmets to specific cars. So maybe I just finished painting a Dale Jr. National Guard car, and I want to use a Dale Jr. National Guard suit. Well, with the basic account, if I upload that National Guard suit, then if I go run the Lotus 79 at Zandvoort, I'm going to have on a National Guard suit in my Lotus 79. But with a pro account, I can assign that to the Chevy SS, and I can assign it to that National Guard paint. And so the only time I'm ever going to see that National Guard suit is if I'm running that National Guard paint with my Chevy SS. So it just gives you a lot deeper, more granular control of what you're using. Also, another cool feature about Pro is with Trading Paints Basic, if I upload a Chevy SS and then tomorrow I decide, you know, I don't like that, I want to switch cars, and I upload a new Chevy SS, well, the one that I had up there is no longer there anywhere. With the Trading Paints Pro account, it has this inactive feature. And so if I upload a new Chevy SS Gen 6, whichever one I was using before gets put in my inactive list, which is what you see here. And if I decide next week, like, maybe I want to run the Budweiser Classic labels, I can come back, if I'm in my inactive list, and I can go back and say, use this paint, and boom, it makes it my active paint again. That saves you a lot of time, lets you build up a little catalog of paints that you can switch back and forth to and from as much as you want. No, as you can see in this list, I've got 3 Camaros, like 5. It keeps them all until you delete them out of the inactive list. I actually had to clean up my list for this demonstration because it was so long. I think at one time I had almost every car painted in here. So, you know, to me, that's worth $24. Support these guys, keep a catalog of my paint so I can switch back and forth, have specific suits and helmets for different cars. I mean, it's a lot of good features for $2 a month. And then also you've got the ability to assign specific cars to night races. I'm a junior fan. Maybe I want to run the National Guard car during a daytime race and the Nationwide insurance car at a nighttime race. I can come in here and set the Nationwide cars in my car for a nighttime race. And Trading Paints is smart enough, if I go race Charlotte at night, it's going to give me the night paint. I personally don't use this feature because I like to manage, you know, you start getting things like wheel colors and number colors, and you know, the numbers are different. So to me, if I'm going to run one paint over the other, I just keep it in my inactive list and turn it on from there. That's pretty much the Trading Paints overview. Basic, pro, how to use the application on the PC, any Trading Paints questions. I want to see, you know, I want to get to a point if you're not running Trading Paints that you're willing to try it. It's super easy to use, easy to install, easy to upload cars. It's one of the best programs, if not the best add-on for iRacing that's ever been made.
Definitely has completely changed iRacing.
Yeah.
Completely changed the experience.
It's awesome to be in a race at Daytona and everybody's running a custom paint. That's really neat, especially if you run a league and everybody's got their paint they're running every Sunday, and you know, it looks a lot better than what's that, Whiskey River, you know, and rain, you know, that kind of stuff. So, y'all want to talk about anything else on Trading Paints? Anything that I haven't talked about on Trading Paints? It's 4:10. I don't have much left on this basic stuff.